I found out my daughter's best friend was hiding this. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. Mia whispered, "If Ms. Carlisle calls you, please don't let her take me." It didn't make sense in the moment, not with the cafeteria buzzing and parents laughing over burnt coffee at the winter fundraiser. I stood behind the bake sale table in my scrubs, still smelling like antiseptic from the clinic, trying to look like I belonged among the PTO moms with perfect hair and matching sweaters. I was Dana, 38, practical to a fault. I believed in calendars, permission slips, and the comforting lie that if you did everything right, your kid would be okay. Harper was 12, all sharp eyes and big empathy, and her best friend Mia was the kind of kid teachers described as a delight. Always thank you, always early, always offering to help stack chairs. So when Mia tugged my sleeve, her fingers were ice cold. Her smile stayed polite, but her eyes were screaming. "What do you mean, honey?" I asked softly. "Did something happen at practice?" Mia's gaze flicked toward the hallway where Ms. Carlisle stood near the office door, clipboard hugged to her chest like a shield. Ms. Carlisle was in her 50s, the school's student support coordinator, the woman who knew every family's business and always framed it as concern. Mia's mouth opened, then closed. She swallowed like it hurt. "Nothing. I'm fine." That word, fine, landed like a weight. Harper ran up, cheeks pink from the gym. "Mom, can we take Mia home? Her ride's weird." "Weird how?" I asked. Harper lowered her voice. She said I shouldn't ask questions. She said Ms. Carlisle gets mad. Across the room, Ms. Carlisle looked directly at me and smiled as if we were old friends. Then she raised two fingers in a casual little wave, like a warning disguised as friendliness. I told myself I was overreacting. I told myself Mia was just anxious, that middle schoolers were dramatic, that adults didn't act like villains in real life. But then my phone buzzed with an email notification. Subject, residency verification needed, urgent. And my stomach dropped because it wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to Mia's name, and it came to my number. Something about this was already wrong in a way I couldn't unsee. Then Ms. Carlisle started walking toward us, smiling like she owned the room. Mia had been in our house so often that her shoes lived by our front door. That's the thing people don't tell you about kids' friendships. You start parenting the orbit, not just your own child. Mia showed up with her neatly braided hair and her backpack organized like a survival kit. Spare pencils, Band-Aids, mini deodorant, a little packet of crackers she never ate herself. She'd compliment my cheap spaghetti like it was restaurant food. She'd rinse her own plate, then ask if she could help with Harper's homework, so Harper doesn't feel stressed. She's like a tiny adult, I joked once. Harper shot me a look. She has to be. I should have grabbed that sentence and held it up to the light. Instead, I did what busy parents do. I filed it away as tween drama and kept moving. The friendship looked perfect from the outside. Harper was loud and messy and fearless. Mia was calm and careful and always trying to make everyone comfortable. They balanced each other. They giggled over makeup tutorials at the kitchen counter and made bracelets with my last good scissors. At school events, teachers loved Mia. "Such a responsible young lady," they'd say. "Always on top of things." Ms. Carlisle, especially, would beam when Mia walked by. "She's resilient," Ms. Carlisle told me at back-to-school night, touching Mia's shoulder like she had a claim. "Some kids just need the right guidance." Mia's smile had been polite even then, her eyes fixed on the floor like she was afraid of saying the wrong thing. And the one tiny detail that didn't fit? Mia never stayed for dinner unless I made her a plate to take to go. She always said her mom was waiting. Always. Even when it was pouring rain. Even when Harper begged. One Friday, I offered to drive her home. Mia's whole body stiffened. "Oh, no. Thank you," she said too quickly. "I can't. Can't." I laughed, trying to keep it light. "It's not a big deal." Mia's fingers tightened around her backpack straps. "Please. I'm fine." Harper walked her to the curb. A car pulled up, a blue Civic with peeling tint and a dented bumper. Mia climbed in without looking back. And as the taillights disappeared, Harper whispered, "Mom, that wasn't her mom." I watched the empty street and realized I didn't even know where Mia lived. The red flags didn't arrive all at once. They came like splinters, small enough to ignore until your hand started bleeding. First, it was the lunches. Harper told me Mia sometimes forgot hers, but it happened too often to be forgetfulness. I started slipping extra snacks into Harper's bag, granola bars, apples, those little cheese packs. Harper would come home with her own lunch half untouched. Mia didn't eat? I asked. Harper hesitated. She said she wasn't hungry. But Harper's eyes did that thing where she tried to look older than 12. She gave it to a boy in 7th grade. He said he'd pay her back. A few days later, I noticed bruises on Mia's forearm when she reached for a cup. Finger-shaped, like someone had grabbed her too hard. Mia, what happened? I asked, keeping my voice casual. She smiled instantly. Oh, I bumped into a door. I'm clumsy. Clumsy kids don't flinch when you move suddenly. Mia did. Then there were the calls. Late-night calls to Harper's phone that would stop the second I walked into the room. Harper started sleeping with her phone under her pillow like it was a lifeline. One night, I heard Harper whispering, Okay, just breathe. I'm here. I pushed the door open. Harper. She jumped, wide-eyed, phone screen going black. Mom, I was just talking. To who? Harper's gaze slid away. Mia. I kept my tone soft. Is she okay? Harper's face crumpled for half a second, then hardened. She told me not to tell. It'll make it worse. That was the first time I felt real fear. Not fear of danger I could name, but fear of a problem hidden behind a kid's loyalty. The next morning, I drove Mia and Harper to school because it was raining. Mia sat in the back seat perfectly straight, hands folded, like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. When we pulled into the drop-off loop, Mia's eyes snapped to the office doors. Ms. Carlisle was standing there with her clipboard, watching cars. Mia sucked in a sharp breath. Don't stop, she blurted. What? I asked. Please, she whispered, and her voice was shaking now. Just don't stop near her. Harper grabbed Mia's hand. Mom, just go. I drove past the front entrance and let them out farther down, where no staff stood. As they ran toward the building, Mia looked back at my car, just once, like she was memorizing it. Then my phone buzzed again with that same email subject line. And this time, the message included a scanned form with my phone number handwritten beside Mia's name. I went to the school office at lunch, telling myself I was being responsible, not paranoid. The lobby smelled like pencil shavings and disinfectant. A receptionist with bright lipstick smiled too brightly. Can I help you? Yes, I said, holding up my phone. I received an email about residency verification for Mia. It came to my number. I'm not her guardian. The receptionist's smile faltered. That's odd. Let me get Miss Carlisle. Miss Carlisle appeared within seconds, as if she'd been waiting behind the wall. She wore a cardigan the color of oatmeal and a pearl necklace that looked expensive enough to hurt. Her expression was warm concern, professionally practiced. Dana, right? She said, like we were friends. Thank you for coming in. I just want to understand why my number is on Mia's paperwork, I said. MS. Carlisle's eyes flicked to my screen, then back to me. Mia listed you as an emergency contact. I didn't agree to that, I said, and I've never seen her registration forms. Ms. Carlisle's smile tightened. Sometimes families in transition list community supports. It's not uncommon. In transition, I repeated. Is Mia homeless? Her gaze sharpened, just for a moment, like a blade flashing under fabric. Then the warmth returned. We don't use labels like that. It can stigmatize children. I leaned forward. I'm asking because Mia has bruises, she's hungry, and she seems terrified of you. Ms. Carlisle's lips parted slightly, like she was surprised I'd said it out loud. Then she sighed, the way adults sigh when they want you to feel unreasonable. Mia is a sensitive child, she said gently. And sometimes, parents project. I know you mean well. I'm not projecting, I snapped, then immediately hated how sharp I sounded. I forced myself to breathe. I'm asking for her safety. Ms. Carlisle lowered her voice. Dana, you work at the clinic, correct? You're a mandated reporter. I'm sure you know how delicate these situations are. The way she said it, mandated reporter, felt like a reminder and a threat at the same time. Then be delicate with the truth, I said. Where is Mia living? Ms. Carlisle's smile vanished. Mia's file is confidential. I'm not asking for her address, I said. I'm asking if she's safe. She tilted her head, pitying. Mia is fine. That word again. Fine. I glanced toward the counter where a stack of folders sat. One of them had a bright sticky note. MIAR. Verify. As my eyes landed on it, Miss Carlisle moved, quick as a reflex, sliding the folder out of sight. Now, she said sweetly. If you'll excuse me, I have students to support. I stood there, heat crawling up my neck. The receptionist avoided my eyes. As I left, my phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. Stop asking questions. It won't end the way you think. And when I looked up, Ms. Carlyle was watching me through the glass. That night, Harper didn't even pretend to be okay. She pushed her dinner around her plate, eyes fixed on the table like it might swallow her. When I asked about school, she shrugged too hard. When I asked about Mia, she flinched. Harper, I said softly, talk to me. She whispered, you talked to MS. Carlyle, didn't you? My stomach sank. How did you know? Mia said you went to the office, Harper said, voice cracking. She said you're going to ruin everything. I'm trying to help, I insisted. Harper slammed her fork down, the metal clinking loud in our small kitchen. You don't get it. Mia doesn't have normal rules. I lowered my voice. What does that mean? Harper's eyes filled fast, like she'd been holding back for days. She's not allowed to give her address. She's not allowed to stay late. She's not allowed to tell anyone about the blue Civic. The blue Civic, I repeated, heartbeat quickening. The car that picks her up. Harper nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. Sometimes it's not even the Civic. Sometimes it's a van. And Mia says if she misses pickup, Miss Carlyle gets mad. Why would Ms. Carlyle control her pickup? I asked. Harper wiped her face with the back of her hand, angry at herself for crying. Because MS. Carlyle says she's handling it. Mia said Ms. Carlyle found her when she was sleeping somewhere. My chest tightened. Sleeping where? Harper shook her head. She wouldn't say. She just said she was cold and her brother was sick and they didn't have money for a motel. A familiar, nauseating anger rose in me. The kind that comes when you realize adults are failing kids while smiling for the yearbook photo. I reached across the table. Sweetheart, did Mia ask you to keep secrets? Harper nodded again, smaller now. She said if anyone finds out, she'll get taken away. And Ms. Carlyle told her she'll call the people if Mia makes trouble. The people, I echoed. Harper swallowed. CPS. Or the police. Mia doesn't trust them. I sat back, trying to keep my face calm so Harper wouldn't see the panic. What else did Mia say? Harper hesitated, then pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She sent me this last week. She made me promise not to show anyone. On the screen was a text from Mia, time-stamped 11:43 p.m. If I disappear tomorrow, it's not because I wanted to. Under it, a second message. Tell your mom she was right about Ms. Carlyle. My throat went dry. Harper, why didn't you show me this? Harper whispered, broken. Because she begged me not to, and I love her. Then my phone buzzed again, and the unknown number sent a photo. The photo was grainy, taken at night. It showed a license plate, crooked angle, flash reflecting off metal. I zoomed in until the pixels swam. The plate was readable anyway, 7KJX219. Under the photo, a message, stay out of it. My hands went cold. Harper, I said, forcing steadiness, go brush your teeth. She stared at me, terrified. Is that about Mia? Just go, I said gently, and when she didn't move, I softened. Please, I need a minute. When she finally left, I sat at the kitchen table and did what I'd avoided all day. I started documenting. I opened a notes app and typed 1/12, received residency verification email address to Mia. January 12th, office visit. Ms. Carlyle withheld file. January 12th, threat text plus plate photo. Then I took screenshots of everything. The email header, the scanned form with my number handwritten, the threat text, the plate photo. My brain kept trying to rationalize. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe a confused number. Maybe I was spiraling. But the pattern was too clean, too targeted. Someone knew I'd gone to the office, and they wanted me quiet. I searched the plate number online through a basic public lookup site, the kind that doesn't give personal info, but sometimes shows vehicle make/model. It returned, silver SUV, registered in county. Not the blue Civic. An SUV. My memory flashed to Ms. Carlyle's car in the staff lot. Silver, newer, always spotless. No, I told myself. That's ridiculous. She's a school employee. She'd lose everything. But then I remembered how fast she'd hidden Mia's folder. How smoothly she'd said, mandated reporter. How her smile had turned sharp for 1 second when I asked if Mia was homeless. I opened Harper's phone. Only because Harper had handed it to me before, and because I was her mother, and because fear makes you cross lines you wish you didn't have to. In Harper's messages with Mia, I searched Carlisle. A string of texts popped up from 2 weeks ago. Mia, she said if I tell she'll mark me absent. Harper, she can't do that. Mia, she can. She did before. She has the papers. Harper, what papers? Mia, the ones that say I live where I don't. My breath hitched. The ones that say I live where I don't. That wasn't just unstable housing. That was falsified records. That was someone using paperwork to keep Mia trapped. From the hallway, Harper called, Mom? I locked the phone and wiped my face. I'm okay, I lied. But I wasn't okay, because suddenly I could see the shape of it. Mia's fear, the secrecy, the missing address, the adult with authority smoothing everything over. And I knew the next step couldn't be emotional. It had to be careful, because if Ms. Carlisle really owned Mia's papers, then Mia wasn't hiding alone. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I called the school and asked for Mia's attendance record. I'm not her parent, I said quickly, but I'm concerned about a safety issue. Can you tell me if she's been marked absent recently? The receptionist's voice turned guarded. We can't release student information. I understand, I said, switching tactics. Can you tell Ms. Carlisle to call me? A pause. She's in meetings. Then tell her it's about my phone number being on Mia's residency form. I said. Tell her I have screenshots. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. MS. Carlisle's voice was honeyed. Dana, I hear you're upset. I'm not upset, I said. I'm concerned. Why is my number on Mia's paperwork? She needed a stable adult contact, Miss Carlisle said. You seemed kind. And the residency form? I pushed. The one claiming she lives on Maple Ridge Drive? A beat of silence. Then, I don't know what you think you saw. I opened the email and read it aloud. Residency verification needed. Urgent. Attached. Affidavit stating Mia resides at 417 Maple Ridge Drive. Miss Carlisle exhaled slowly. Dana, listen to me. Families in crisis require discretion. Discretion isn't the same as lying, I said. Who lives at that address? You're putting Mia at risk, she snapped, and the mask slipped just enough for me to hear steel. Then she caught herself. I mean, you could put her at risk. I'm already at risk, I said, and my voice shook despite my effort. Someone texted me a threat and a license plate photo last night. Another pause, short, but telling. That's unfortunate, Miss Carlisle said. People can be reactive when children are involved. Was it you? I asked. She laughed softly, like I'd made a silly joke. Dana, please. I'm trying to protect Mia. From what? Miss Carlisle's tone cooled. From people who think they know better. I hung up before I said something that would ruin my ability to think. At work, between patients, I searched Maple Ridge Drive. Public property records were easy enough. 417 Maple Ridge belonged to a local nonprofit board member, someone with a polished Facebook presence and a history of fundraising photos, with Ms. Carlisle standing beside them. That night, I drove past Maple Ridge on my way home. The house was large, dark, and quiet. No signs of kids. No bikes. No light in the windows. So why did Mia's affidavit claim she lived there? I parked a block away, feeling ridiculous and desperate. Then my phone buzzed with a new email, this time from a school address. From Carlisle at District K-12. Subject, please stop. The body was one line. If you continue, I will report concerning behavior about your household. My hand started shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. Because suddenly this wasn't just about Mia anymore. This was about Harper. And I realized Ms. Carlisle had just drawn a line through my family. 2 days later, Mia didn't show up to school. Harper came home hollow-eyed, backpack hanging off one shoulder like it weighed 50 pounds. She's gone, she whispered before she even took off her shoes. Gone where? I asked, already grabbing my keys. Harper's voice cracked. No one will say. Ms. Carlisle told the teacher Mia transferred. Just like that. Transferred. As if kids were paperwork. I drove straight to the school, heart hammering, and demanded a meeting. They put me in a small conference room with a motivational poster about kindness and a stale bowl of peppermints. Ms. Carlisle walked in 10 minutes later, calm as a librarian. Dana, she said warmly. I'm glad you're here. Where is Mia? I asked. No small talk, no politeness. Ms. Carlisle sat down and folded her hands. Mia's family situation changed. Is she safe? She's not your child, Ms. Carlisle said gently. Your focus should be Harper. My focus is the truth, I snapped. You threatened me. You put my number on her forms. You falsified an address. Ms. Carlyle's eyes narrowed, then softened again. You're emotional. That's understandable. Stop doing that, I said, my voice low. Stop talking to me like I'm hysterical. She sighed like a martyr. Fine. You want honesty? Mia was living unpredictably. Her guardian struggled. I stabilized the situation. You mean you hid it? I said. I mean I protected a child from stigma, she replied, sharper now. Do you know what happens when a school reports homelessness? The child becomes a case file, a label, a target. I swallowed hard. So you forged residency to keep her enrolled. Ms. Carlyle leaned forward, voice dropping. I did what I had to do. And now she's transferred, I said. Where? Ms. Carlyle smiled without warmth. Somewhere you can't interfere. I stared at her, and for the first time I saw the truth. She wasn't protecting Mia from the system. She was protecting herself from consequences. That night, Harper's phone buzzed at 1:07 a.m. She ran into my room, shaking, and handed it to me without a word. A message from Mia. I'm in the car again. Then another. She said it's my fault you ask questions. I typed back with trembling fingers. Where are you? Are you hurt? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, Mia replied. I can't say. She checks. She always checks. My stomach twisted. Who checks? I whispered aloud. Harper hugged herself. Mom. Mia said Ms. Carlyle has a spare key. A spare key to what? The car? A motel room? A storage unit? And then Mia sent one last message. If you come, don't bring school people. Because the next text wasn't from Mia, it was from Ms. Carlyle's number. Ms. Carlyle's text was short, polite, and terrifying in its confidence. Please stop contacting Mia. This is your final warning. I stared at it until my vision blurred. I had a kid messaging my daughter at 1 a.m. saying she was in a car again, and the school's support coordinator was telling me to back off like Mia was contraband. I did what adults always do when they're afraid. I considered the safest option for myself. If I called CPS or the police without details, Mia could get swept into a system she didn't trust. If I went to the school board, Ms. Carlyle could spin it as a well-meaning employee dealing with an over-involved parent. And if I did nothing, Mia could disappear permanently into cold nights, into hunger, into whatever spare key meant. I sat at the kitchen table at 2 a.m., the house quiet except for the fridge hum, and I made a list. Not because lists fix things, but because lists keep you from falling apart. Evidence I had. Residency email with affidavit for Maple Ridge, dated January 12th. Threat text plus plate photo, January 12th. MS. Carlyle email threatening to report my household, January 14th. Mia's texts about papers and being in the car again, 1/16th. Ms. Carlyle text telling me to stop contacting Mia, January 16th. I didn't have Mia's location. I didn't have her guardian's name. I didn't even know if the blue Civic belonged to family or a stranger. Harper sat beside me, knees pulled to her chest. Don't call the school, she whispered. They'll make it worse. I looked at my daughter, 12 years old, and already learning that adults with power weren't always safe. It made me furious in a way I couldn't explain without breaking. I'm not calling the school, I said. I'm calling someone who has to document truth. Like who? I hesitated, then pulled up the non-emergency police number. My thumb hovered. An officer, not a school person. Harper's face tightened. Mia said police scare her. I know, I said softly. But I'm going to be careful. We're going to do this in a way that keeps Mia safe. I made the call. When the dispatcher asked for details, my voice shook anyway. I gave dates. I gave the plate number. I gave Ms. Carlyle's name. The dispatcher said, an officer will contact you. When I hung up, Harper whispered, what if Mia gets mad at me? I pulled her into my arms. Then I'll be the adult who takes the blame. My phone buzzed with an unknown number a minute later. A calm male voice texted, Officer Reyes. Can you meet tonight? Officer Reyes met me at a 24-hour diner off the highway, the kind with sticky menus and coffee that tasted like burnt hope. He was in plain clothes, jeans, dark jacket, and he didn't look like TV cops. He looked tired in a way I trusted. I'm not here to make things worse, he said immediately, sliding into the booth. Tell me what you know, and tell me what you don't. So I told him. I showed him my screenshots. I pulled up the affidavit email and zoomed in on the handwriting where my number appeared. I showed him Ms. Carlyle's threat about reporting my household. Reyes didn't interrupt. He just watched, eyebrows tightening at the right moments. "This plate photo," he said, tapping my screen. "Who took it?" "I don't know," I admitted. "It came from an unknown number." "And Mia's guardian?" "I don't know," I said again, hating how useless it sounded. "She never talks about home. She always says she's fine." Reyes nodded slowly. "Kids in unstable housing often hide it. Shame. Fear. They've been taught that telling equals punishment." My throat tightened. "So what do I do?" "Because the school isn't helping. Ms. Carlyle is controlling this." Reyes leaned back. "If Ms. Carlyle falsified residency documents, that's serious. If she's threatening you to keep quiet, that's worse." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "But we need to be strategic. If we confront her without a plan, she'll cover her tracks and Mia will vanish." I swallowed. "She already vanished from school." Reyes nodded. "Which means we act fast." Outside the diner window, headlights passed like slow comets. I felt like I was sitting at the edge of something huge and ugly. Then my phone buzzed. A new message from Mia, timestamp 3:19 a.m. "I'm sorry. Harper didn't do anything wrong." Under it, "She said she'll tell everyone your mom hits you." My skin went cold. I looked at Reyes. "She's threatening to accuse me." Reyes's jaw tightened. That's classic leverage. I stared at the message until tears blurred the words. "My kid is 12. She's never been hit in her life." "I believe you," Reyes said firmly. "But accusations trigger investigations, and investigations create fear. That's how people control you." My phone buzzed again, this time an email from the school district. Subject: Notice of Concern, Student Welfare. I opened it with shaking hands. It was a formal notice stating the district had received a report requesting review of Harper's home environment. Reyes exhaled slowly. "She moved first," he murmured. I felt my chest tighten, panic clawing upward. "She's trying to scare me into silence." Reyes looked me dead in the eye. "Then we don't play her game." "How?" I whispered. He leaned forward. "We set a meeting she can't spin, and we bring receipts." And just then, my phone rang with the school's caller ID. I didn't answer the school's call. I let it go to voicemail, hands trembling in my lap. Reyes nodded like I'd done the right thing. "Let them document," he said. "Voicemails matter." When the message came through, we listened together. Ms. Carlyle's voice was sweet enough to rot teeth. "Dana," she said, "I'm concerned about the messages you've been sending students late at night. This could be misinterpreted. Please come in tomorrow to clarify." Reyes paused the voicemail. "She's flipping the narrative, painting you as the problem." I stared at him, rage and fear twisting together. "I messaged because Mia was texting Harper at 1 a.m. saying she was in a car. And she knows that," Reyes said. "That's why she's doing it." He pulled out a small notebook. "Here's what we do. You don't go alone. You don't go emotional. You go documented." I swallowed. "She'll still lie?" "Then we make her lie on record," Reyes said calmly. "And we make sure it's witnessed." The plan took shape in plain, procedural steps that felt like the first solid ground I'd had in days. Reyes would request a welfare check tied to Mia's last known pickup vehicle, the blue Civic, and the silver SUV plate. I would forward every email and screenshot to Reyes's official address, so it wasn't just on my phone. We would attend the school meeting, but not as a private conversation. As a formal conference with an administrator present. We would ask direct questions that required direct answers. Who signed Mia's residency affidavit? Who authorized my number? Who marked her transfer? And if she refuses? I asked. Reyes's eyes were steady. Then we document refusal. I went home before dawn, exhausted and buzzing with adrenaline. Harper was waiting on the couch, eyes red from crying. "Mia okay?" she asked immediately. "I don't know yet," I admitted, sitting beside her. "But we're doing something." Harper whispered, "She'll hate me." I took Harper's face in my hands. "Listen to me. Mia is not going to hate you for loving her." Harper flinched at a sound outside. Headlights swept across the living room wall. A car idled on the street. I peeked through the blinds, and my stomach dropped. A silver SUV sat at the curb, engine running. "Mom," Harper whispered, voice tiny. "That looks like Miss Carlyle's car." My heart hammered. The SUV's brake lights glowed, then went dark. A figure stepped out, too far to see clearly, but the posture was confident, unhurried. They walked toward my front door like they belonged there. Then my doorbell rang once. and my phone buzzed with a text from Ms. Carlyle. We need to talk, right now. I stayed silent, because the next sound was my doorknob turning. My door was locked. The doorknob rattled anyway, one sharp twist, then another, like someone testing boundaries. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Harper clutched my sleeve so hard her fingers hurt. The rattling stopped. Then came a soft knock. Dana. Ms. Carlyle's voice drifted through the door, calm as church. I know you're awake. I wanted to fling the door open and scream at her. Instead, I did what Reyes told me. Document, don't explode. I hit record on my phone and whispered, Harper, go to your room. Harper shook her head frantically. No. The knock came again, harder. Dana, you're making this worse, Ms. Carlyle called. If you don't cooperate, the district will have to take steps. I kept recording. Ms. Carlyle, I said loudly, voice shaking, it's 5:12 a.m. Why are you at my house? A pause. Then, sweetly, to check on Harper. I received concerning information. From you? I asked. Her voice sharpened. Don't be smart. There it was. The slip. The real her. I didn't open the door. I didn't argue. I just said, please leave my property. Silence stretched. Then her tone turned soft again, like a performance resuming. Dana, I understand you're scared, but you've been interfering with a delicate situation. A child living in a car isn't delicate, I said, and my voice cracked on the truth. It's dangerous. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, Ms. Carlyle said quietly, you don't know what you're talking about. Then her footsteps retreated. The SUV door shut. The engine started. And she drove away like she'd never been there. I sent the audio file to Officer Reyes the second the sun rose. By afternoon, Reyes called me back. Good job recording, he said. Because now we have her admitting she's checking on your household in person. What about Mia? I asked, throat tight. Reyes exhaled. We found the blue Civic. It's registered to a man named Todd R., no relation listed. But the bigger thing? The silver SUV is registered too. Ms. Carlyle, I whispered. Yes, Reyes confirmed. And we pulled security footage from a gas station near the school. Your plate photo helped us narrow the area. My stomach flipped. What's on the footage? Reyes's voice was grim. Ms. Carlyle was there at 11:58 p.m. 2 nights ago, and Mia was in the passenger seat. I felt dizzy. She had Mia. She had access, Reyes corrected. And that matters. The school scheduled the clarification meeting for the next morning. Reyes told me not to cancel. That's our stage, he said. We're going to let her talk. The next day, I walked into the school conference room with Reyes beside me and my folder of printed screenshots in my hands. Ms. Carlyle was already seated, smiling like we were friends. Dana, she said warmly. I'm so glad you came. Reyes placed his badge on the table. We're here to ask about Mia R.'s residency affidavit. Ms. Carlyle blinked once. I don't understand. I slid the printed affidavit across the table, Maple Ridge address, my number, her signature line. Her smile froze. And then the principal walked in holding a second folder I'd never seen. The principal looked pale, like someone had just told him his house was on fire. He set the folder down carefully, eyes not meeting mine at first. Dana, he said, voice tight. I need to understand why this exists. Ms. Carlyle's smile tried to recover. What is that? She asked lightly. The principal opened the folder and pulled out a printed chain of emails, district letterhead, highlighted sections, timestamps. He read aloud. From Carlyle. Subject. Keep Mia enrolled under Maple Ridge address. Do not flag as homeless. Ms. Carlyle's face went very still. Those emails are being taken out of context, she said quickly. Reyes didn't raise his voice. Then provide the context. MS. Carlyle's gaze flicked to me, sharp and angry for half a second, then back to the principal. You don't understand how messy these families are, she said, voice rising. I was protecting a child. The principal's hands shook slightly as he turned the pages. And this? He asked, pulling out a signed form. This is an emergency contact authorization with Dana's number handwritten. It's not in our system correctly. It's not initialed by a guardian. Ms. Carlyle's voice softened. Dana offered to help. I never offered that, I said, shaking. You used my number to control access. Ms. Carlyle's eyes widened in fake hurt. Dana, why are you doing this? Reyes slid a photo across the table, still framed from the gas station footage. Ms. Carlyle's silver SUV, Mia visible in the passenger seat. Timestamp clear in the corner. January 16th, 11:58 p.m. The room went silent. Even the fluorescent lights seemed louder. The principal swallowed. Why was Mia in your vehicle at midnight? Ms. Carlyle stared at the photo, then laughed. Too bright, too wrong. This is ridiculous. Reyes's voice stayed calm. We can subpoena the full footage. We already have the plate match. We also have an audio recording of you at Dana's house at 5:12 a.m. Ms. Carlyle's composure cracked. You recorded me, she hissed at me. I flinched, but I didn't look away. You tried my doorknob. Her face reddened. Because you were harassing a student. I was trying to find her, I said, voice breaking. Because she was sleeping in a car. Ms. Carlyle's eyes snapped to the principal. If you let this become public, it will destroy the school's reputation, she said urgently. Do you want donors to hear we have homeless children? And there it was, the truth underneath the Concern Act. Image. Funding. Control. The principal's jaw tightened. So you hid it. I managed it, she shot back. I handled it. I kept her enrolled, fed her, made sure she didn't become a statistic. Reyes leaned forward. Where is Mia now? Ms. Carlyle's lips pressed into a hard line. The principal stood up abruptly. I'm calling the superintendent. Ms. Carlyle's voice dropped to a whisper, venomous and controlled. You have no idea what you just started. Then Harper's phone buzzed in my pocket with a message from Mia. I stepped into the hallway and pulled out Harper's phone with shaking hands. Mia's message was short, like she didn't have time. She's taking me back to Maple Ridge. My heart slammed against my ribs. Maple Ridge, the fake address, the donor house, the place that wasn't hers. I typed back. Are you with her right now? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then yes. She said I have to sign something. I felt sick. Reyes. I whispered, turning back into the conference room. Mia is with her. Reyes's expression changed instantly. Professional calm turning into action. He stepped out, speaking into his phone, fast and precise. We need units to Maple Ridge Drive. Possible custodial interference. Minor involved. The principal looked like he might throw up. Ms. Carlyle sat very still, eyes fixed on the table, her hands clenched. What did you make her sign? I demanded, voice rising despite myself. Ms. Carlyle looked up slowly, and her expression wasn't concern anymore. It was annoyance, like Mia was an inconvenience that stopped being useful. She needs stability, Ms. Carlyle said. She needs to be placed properly. You're not placement, Reyes snapped, returning. You're school staff. Ms. Carlyle's mouth tightened. You're overreacting. Reyes pointed toward the door. Stand up. You're coming with us. The room exploded into motion. Administrator voices, phones, footsteps. I stood frozen, gripping Harper's phone like a lifeline. Minutes later, Reyes called me from his patrol car speaker. I could hear sirens in the background. Dana, he said, we have eyes on the property. Stay where you are. I sank into a chair in the empty conference room, hands shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. Harper texted from school. Mom? Are you okay? I didn't know what to tell my daughter. I didn't know how to explain that an adult at her school had been playing puppet master with a child's life, all wrapped in support. Then Reyes called again, and his voice was grim but steady. We found Mia, he said. She was in the back room of the house. She's alive. I exhaled a sob I didn't know I'd been holding. Is she hurt? Not physically, Reyes said. But she's terrified. She keeps saying she's sorry. My throat tightened. Where is Ms. Carlyle? A pause. She claims she had permission. She's saying Mia's guardian authorized everything. Who is the guardian? I whispered. Reyes's voice lowered. That's the next part. The paperwork trail goes deeper than Carlyle. My stomach turned over. Deeper how? Reyes exhaled. Because Maple Ridge isn't just a fake address. It's tied to district funds. I pressed my forehead to the table, dizzy with anger. So she used Mia for money. Reyes didn't deny it. We're getting Mia somewhere safe tonight. I looked down at Harper's phone. Mia's last message still glowed. I didn't want to lie. And I realized the biggest fight wasn't over truth. It was over who believed her. Mia spent that night in a warm room at a family services center, wrapped in a blanket that looked too big for her. Officer Reyes arranged it carefully. No flashing lights, no sudden interrogations, no treating her like a problem to be processed. He told me, we move slow with kids who've learned adults are dangerous. Harper cried when she heard Mia was safe. Not relief tears, angry tears. They made her feel like she was bad, she whispered. Like she was a secret. I sat with my daughter on our couch, the same couch where she'd curled up fearing Mia would vanish. I held her close and thought about how close I'd come to doing nothing. Because doing something was messy, and people like Ms. Carlisle counted on good parents staying quiet. The next week was brutal. Other parents stared at me in the pickup line. Someone posted anonymously in a neighborhood group that I was harassing school staff. A woman I barely knew messaged, "Why are you trying to ruin a good educator's life?" I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I learned to respond with facts, not feelings. I forwarded the audio recording to the investigator assigned to the case. I sent the gas station still frame. I printed the residency affidavit and highlighted the dates. I wrote everything down like my sanity depended on it, because it did. Mia's truth came out in pieces. She and her older brother had been living in their mom's car after an eviction. Ms. Carlisle found out and decided, unilaterally, to handle it. Instead of connecting them to proper services, she pressured Mia to keep quiet so the school wouldn't report higher homelessness numbers. She placed Mia under a donor's address to keep district metrics clean and funding secure, using guilt and threats to control her. The worst part wasn't just the fraud. It was the way Ms. Carlisle spoke about Mia like an object in a plan. Mia started therapy. Harper asked to join a few sessions, because she carried guilt like it was her job. I apologized to Harper for reading her messages. I told her the truth. Fear makes adults messy too, but accountability matters. And slowly, Mia learned that help didn't have to come with strings. That adults could show up and not take control. If there's anything I learned, it's this. When a kid says, "Don't tell," ask yourself who taught them silence equals survival. Document everything. Save every email. Screenshot every threat. Find one calm professional who believes in process and in kids. Because truth doesn't always win loudly. Sometimes it wins because someone refused to stop writing things down.